So like today, you're obviously much more senior position. Do you have junior designers reporting to you?
Not directly, no. We are quite not top heavy, but like we're quite advanced. Not, I don't know what the word is, but all of our staff are quite experienced. Minimum kind of probably 5 years of experience currently.
Okay. Yeah.
So we don't have any juniors per se.
Yeah, yeah. But I can imagine if I was a junior, I'd want to work under you.
Thank you.
Because you would say, you'd explain what a grommet drawing was.
No, we work within Savills. We work quite independently on projects. So each designer, depending on the scale of the project, obviously, will kind of be allocated a project. And if you're a director and either associate or associate director, you kind of work on it together.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's like a larger project, probably more than 15,000, 20,000 square foot, then you kind of start to have a bigger team. So that would be 2 or 3 people working on it together. And that obviously varies depending on kind of what stage of the process we're at. So if it's a very early stage, it would be our strategy team. So we have, I think, 6 strategists on our team, including change management and development strategy, and they do a lot of work in those early stages. And then they kind of hand it over to the designers and stay involved to kind of like see the process through. And then we obviously do the concept design, the development of that design and coordination. And then at some point we kind of work collaboratively with our technical team as well. So they would do a lot more of the detail in the technical drawings, checking the regulations and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So back to early days, like with this little Scottish architect in London. Was there any projects that you did for them that stood out? Any brands that you kind of remember today?
Yeah. One of, I think, my favourite projects that we did was, I think, probably one of the first ones we worked on. Probably rose tinted glasses, everything's all new. So it was a good project though. It was at the time called iTelligence. I think they're now called NTT Data. So I think there was a acquisition or a thing there. And we designed their Coventry office. Less of an office though, more of a kind of like drop-in centre, client suite and training centre. So yeah, first job, and got to learn a lot on the job, particularly around like budgets and value engineering. But we still created a really beautiful project at the end of the day with a lot of coordination went into it to make sure that the client got what they really wanted, but it stayed within budget and made the wow factor.
Yeah, so you're working with like a bit like your chain now, the technical and the strategic, etc.
Yeah, well, because that was a smaller practice, it was kind of everyone does everything, and it just, you've got to. And so we kind of had a brief set in the initial aspect, and then we had an absolutely brilliant senior designer, Laura, who now works at TP Bennett. Shout out to Laura Ficini.
We often get a shout out. Maybe she'll be another guest.
I know. But yeah, she was absolutely fabulous and great for me as a young designer, junior designer to learn from. She was very like detail oriented and hardworking and just knew exactly what needed to be done to make something come to life, which when you're a young junior designer, you don't really know that. You can see the concept, but you can't see how to get it from kind of A to Z, which you kind of miss a bit in your education. It's a lot more of the kind of conceptual design this, but it never gets built aspect.
Yeah. So that's really interesting because as junior designers going to be listening to this for sure. What are those bits from the B to W, X, Y, whatever? Yeah. What are those bits that kind of should be in education, but they're not?
It's hard to put a finger on exactly what it is because every project is completely different. And generally, the most kind of important things are, well, it also depends on the environment as well, because we design for commercial spaces, so it's got to be commercially viable, which would mean it's got to be within a budget. Yeah, we might not always know what that budget is, but someone does.
Yeah, you find out after you've designed it.
Yeah, and then they say just slice it in half. But so yeah, it's got to be within budget. It's got to be buildable as well. It's got to be buildable within the time frame of the program as well, and it's also got to be kind of stand the test of time. So for commercial environments, you wouldn't put like a residential sofa in because it's just going to wear away after like 3 weeks because there's so many more people sitting on it, so much more traffic coming through.
Yeah.
And I remember when I came into the industry, there was a lot of terminology that I didn't understand. So things like your Martindale tests, so your certifications. Even now, there's more comes out all the time, and that's where we kind of have a. It's important to have a continued professional development or a CPD program, which I organise within our practice. But it's so important to stay on top of everything that's happening.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And education to real life, I mean, there is so many, it is so different. You've covered it well. So that's...
I think the education aspect never stops though, because when you come out of education, you're still going to keep learning.
Yeah, you're starting again.
Yeah, even as someone who's got 5 years experience, you're still learning every day. Yeah. There's new things pop up, regulations change, requirements of the client change as well. Yeah. And projects change too.
And like back in the day as well, like sustainability probably wasn't such a big deal.
Yeah.
And then COVID happens, and so no, I get it.
No, absolutely. It's interesting. We do a lot of interns for school age children who are kind of like about to leave. So kind of like 14 to 18 kind of year olds. And we had one recently who is going on to do architecture actually at Bath University. But he was saying when he did his personal statement, there was a huge aspect of that around ESG and your kind of like responsibility and things like that, which was never the case when I did it. So it's interesting to see how that's kind of filtered through to young people as well.
Yeah, in a way, they're kind of leading the way, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's interesting. And well, that's kind of your juniors that you're looking after, I would say, like, because you're always influencing somebody for positive or negative, aren't you? Like, you're always an influence. And I get it, at times in your life, you think, oh, no one's looking up to me. No one's ever looking up to me. But then someone might drop you a message, or you have someone through, or you'll hear that student on a podcast in 5 years' time saying, yeah, I worked with Blair and he just totally was really detail orientated and he knew everything and I just wanted to be like him. And you're like, oh gosh, I made a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and absolutely.